You see, I'm on your
Yes,
side.
so we will update you. By tomorrow, you'll get full position.
Accountant General,
yes.
What you see, I've given you thing, and that you have done the appropriate thing. We want to help you to help us so that we can achieve the same goal.
Was not inclusive of this amount. And so, sir, the question we want to ask first of all, sir, is that are you familiar with this document? Are you familiar with this transaction?
That is what I will go and now.
No, but sir, looking at it, because, sir, I owe you a duty of care. I watch your back. Sir, I'm representing you here, sir. Sir, the point I'm making is this, sir. If you look at this document, it emanates from your office. And it was addressed to the Attorney General of the Federation. Take a look at it again, sir. Please, show him. Show him. No, sir. Look at it. Look at the letterhead. Look at the letterhead, sir.
This is confirmation. Yeah, it's in my own document.
Exactly, sir.
It's my own document.
So, sir, the worry, sir, Attorney General, my NTA, please, Uncle, the worry of the committee is that you are asked to give a report up to December 2020. Sir, remember, sir, that we're in 2021 and we're already in May. We are in May. So, sir, it won't be out of place, sir, to ask for a record, financial records drawn up to 31st December 2020. And that is in October, I guess, last year. So, and I'm very happy that you recognize that it emanated from your office, that it's your document. So I know balances can change. Do you understand? We know balances can change. So if you give a position, say in May, in 2020, it won't be the same in October 2020. So we understand that. But we are just curious, worried that that 5 million euro is not 5,000 naira.
Honorable, the request for information is to November, not to December. It's to November, and we gave our information to November. This came after.
No,
even where we have
which month is this, sir? Which month is this?
This is October.
And this is November.
But the request actually was for information balances as at September, even though we made it available before committee as at November.
And then so one expect that want to have been covered, sir.
But then we are trying to restrict ourselves to the period in question. In any case, this is what came in October and reflected in the accounts after the date of this request.
Okay, my leader, sir, gentlemen, my leader, sir.
In any case,
sir, excuse me, sir.
We agreed.
Accountant General, take this from me.
Yes.
You see, just like the chairman observed, we are not at war.
We are not.
You see, we are all working together, to make Nigeria a better place. Mr. Chairman, sir, fair hearing is a very serious constitutional matter. Very serious constitutional matter. Records don't lie. Records don't lie. 5 million euro cannot disappear anyhow. We can trace. Why don't we give the Attorney General an opportunity to update his records? And like I've said, Mr. Chairman, sir, excuse me, sir, what is important, Mr. Chairman, sir, what is important to Nigerians is account of the total amount recovered from loot and proceeds of financial crimes and its application. That is what Nigerians are interested in. And sir, and that is the purpose of this committee. This committee must unearth what the proceeds, what has been used for. If you are saying, excuse me, sir, if you are saying you apply a proceed to Lagos-Ibadan Road, to Kaduna, to Abuja, to Kaduna-Kano Road, do we have value for money? Performance audit, project audit. Those are the issues that we want you to account up to the last kobo based on the submission of the Attorney General of the Federation. The Attorney General of the Federation has given an account, the legal background to all the recoveries. But this committee is interested. The asset you disposed of that you sold, the proceeds, were the asset valued at the real price or the undervalued?
Honorable, we will make this information available tomorrow. Tomorrow, as we said.
Let me intervene here.
Yes.
I tried to help you, and I stated the things we need to do to make things very easy. You've sent us, okay, this is how much was received. I mean, like my colleague mentioned when the Attorney General was explaining, you paid him money. It's not his business to know where you paid from. So what we want to do is now benchmark how much was received. Break down, this is how much was received for discipline. This is how much was expended. And then you itemize who and who it was paid for. Then you give us the balance. Because if, let's assume you receive 100 billion naira in 2019, and you spent 100 billion naira, we want to know what projects, or for what, is it for NSIP? Were they paid to NSIP? You give us the date. Was it paid to this? You give us the date. Was it paid maybe discretionary spending? You let us know. Those are the things we want you to have in that document that you're going forward to tomorrow.
We will incorporate these elements, which clearly are not in the report, but for all other details, we've been able to give who is the recipient of what in our report. And, pardon? No, I am saying this element is not there, but we'll incorporate it.
So
that is why
an opportunity to update
and it will be tomorrow. We'll bring an update.
Mr. Chairman, sir. Looking at the presentation of the Accountant General today, vis-a-vis the request of this committee before him, that we should give us adequate record of recovered, expended, and in the notion of the presentation I made to him, a record emanating from his office with 5 million euro not being included, I'd like to move that the Accountant General is concealing information before this committee, and therefore cause him to appear before the whole House of Representatives of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So move, Mr. Chairman.
Honorable. I need to appeal to us.
Mr. Chairman,
we stated it
Mr. Chairman,
that first we're trying to solve problems. Sometimes in a bid to solve a problem, you don't escalate what can be solved. I believe you will just
Honorable.
Let me land.
Okay.
We've given me another opportunity to look at the record, straighten the record. Maybe at the time he was writing the initial report, he didn't expect that would be this detailed. Sometimes accountants give background, they give a little, they don't go into the nitty-gritty. We have given him another opportunity.
Mr. Chairman,
to
if
go
it's
into
so
the
pleases
nitty-gritty.
with my colleagues, you and my colleagues, I will step
down your motion.
Let me step it down.
Thank you.
Okay, I will step it down. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, for the period of 2017 to 2020, is there a possibility that it could mean that you could have omitted something from this schedule?
To the best of my knowledge, we have not omitted
Anything?
anything.
Okay, now let me read this. On August 1st, 2017, you made a payment of 6,119 million to the office of NSA. It's not reflected here.
Please, can I just see both?
Please, I want you to look at it. No, I give it to him. It's already highlighted. Please show him this. This is a statement of account.
The same figure of 6.119 debited on 1st August 2017 was
Yes, sir.
My attention is drawn to the fact by the relevant operators of the account that this payment to ONSA Falcon Eye project was made in August 2017, and Honorable Chair, the same payment was reversed and the payment was made in August. August 2017 is here as recorded, but reversed in June, precisely June 16th, 2018. So we have not reported it as a payment because there is reversal.
Sorry. I need to understand this. A payment was made in August 2017 and reversed in June
2018.
June 2018. That's almost a year.
Yes.
For reversal.
Yes.
Where was the funds within this period before it was reversed? Reversal means that it was returned by the
Yes.
It takes a year to reverse.
Well, for whatever reason, there is reversal.
Anyway, okay. Now, please hold on a bit. It's not reflected there. I agreed it was reversed.
And
I still insisted the same amount. 22nd July 2019. The same, 6,520,000,000 was paid for the same project and still not reflected in your account.
Not reflected?
Same. That's why I said 22nd July 2019.
It is here. Yes, it's in the submission.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
The first one was reversed.
What is?
What number is it on the submission?
It is on this, this paper I collected, Chair, from you. The second payment was on 3rd July 2019. Here it is. Item 1,
Mr. Chairman.
3, 4, 5.
So,
The list.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, Mr. Chairman,
CBN, federal government accounts. Is it normal that a payment was reversed 5 months after? Is that where was the money for that period?
The money was in TSA account of ONSA, not in a commercial bank. No government agency operates commercial bank account.
ONSA returned it to you?
Return it.
Okay, because they don't have further need for it.
Because for whatever reason, administrative, we don't know whether there was an issue, but it was returned that it was not the right time to pay the contractor or so. So it was returned and we took it back and it's reflected.
Okay, thank you.
Written assessment on status of all recovered loots. So where do you want me to read, please, sir?
No, the basic thing, what was the conclusion of the letter?
The letter?
You can read out the entire letter, it's not
I'm
confidential.
directed to. The letter is simply saying that recovery funds are with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
No.
Unless I'm reading it.
Let me read it for you. I think let's not confuse it. The NSA, they do not have a recovery account, and the NSA is unaware of the recovery account. Because the NSA says they don't know.
No, speak. Use the mic to speak.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, Honorable members. The NSA account, actually, there used to be an EFCC team in the NSA's office. And recoveries related to...
I think you need to be on note before you can speak.
So was approved that all the recovery accounts should be consolidated under the Office of the Accountant General. There was a team in the NSA office. I think it's an AFCC dedicated team. So I think that account was specifically opened for recoveries emanating from the ONSA office as at that time. But we may need to check at the primary record because we have all the documents, we have all the submissions made by all these agencies. when those recovery designated accounts were put in place.
I think there's going to be a lot of clarification now. EFCC officers attached to NSA office keeping a separate recovery account. No. I mean, if you're working for EFCC, no matter where you are you allowed to operate an account where you're different from the EFCC account?
It's a dedicated account, sir. We may need to check the records, and then we can give you the background, what led to that, the approval to open the account.
Where's the payment mandate?
Sorry, sir. I think in a system where you are in charge of all the treasuries, whether ministry, agencies, and all the like, and there's every likelihood that in some occasions, you usually send memos, usually send memo across to all of them for one information or the other. Has there been any time you've extended any memo directing either EFCC or NSA that they should bring forth all monies they received in line with this investigative?
Yes, there has been a lot of communication between the Office of Accountant General of the Federation and the investigative agencies with regards to recoveries of funds. And more importantly, there was a specific directive by the federal government that we should harmonize so that every agency should not be keeping records and accounts on their own. And that was the time when Treasury took full control. Hitherto, they kept the account until they got final forfeiture. So, with that, we don't have visibility of what was happening before consolidation anyway. And now, we under the directive of government, we had to come, as a Treasury to take control, to take over, so that even if the interim forfeiture is visible to us, is maintained by us, is kept by the Treasury. And so there are a lot of correspondences to that effect between our office and the investigative agencies.
Okay, within the time, maybe in the last 1 year, when you send the last correspondence to that effect, that they should report all, no matter how infinitesimal, the information concerning this recovery. Have any of them within that time declined or refused to?
In fact, the investigative agencies, all these agencies, EFCC, ICPC, ONSA, and so on, including police, including whoever, are under obligation, and they know.
No, I don't mean obligation. I say since that time,
yes,
till now. Any of them? They are up to date. That's what I'm saying,
right? I'm not aware of any situation where any of them failed to give us information. Sometimes they wait because of the legal issues around the matter till it is concluded to a certain point. So, other than that...
What is the window? You say for some certain point, what's the window usually give them making the return?
Unless they come to us, I wouldn't even know that they are handling this or that, except where I hear over the news that EFCC is making recovery. And that
there is no established timeline which you have given to them that if you are making any recovery, once this money comes into your hand, you must make that returns to the Accountant General or the details within 3 months or 1 month or something.
It's not even about 1 month or 3 months or whatever. They know.
No, not knowing. You see, communication in that manner is supposed to be, you must put pen on pad, it must be very formal.
No, Honorable, yes. We are all guided by government directive. When there is a firm, single government directive, that this be done. So everybody must be guided.
It's not on that. Sorry, sir.
The right thing.
It's not. Sorry, sir.
Yes.
It's not your responsibility. It's the responsibility of your office. If it's between you and a brother or a friend, that's a different thing. But in a situation your office is trying to have a correspondence with another office, it must be very formal, written.
We have been having correspondences for them to make available information on final forfeiture and the amounts,
And all of them are up to date.
Yes, as
They're
far
up
as
to
we
date.
know. As
So
far as
what's
we
the
know.
window? What's the window between the time they should get the recovery and the time they should make the necessary returns? What's the window?
Well, I wouldn't want
what's
to.
timeline?
In all honesty, there is no official timeline given.
It's
And
an
I wouldn't want to-
open-ended
I wouldn't
thing.
want to commit myself or commit them to a window.
So it's an open-ended thing. You can bring it anytime, even though it's 1 year or 2 years or 6 months or whatever. You can.
No. It cannot be that.
So what is it like?
Well, a reasonable period of time.
Sorry, sir?
A reasonable period.
But that's what I'm saying.
Well, it's not defined.
It's not defined. When it's not defined, it's an
And it cannot
open-ended
be
thing.
open-ended.
So any person can keep any money till any time, and now it's allowed.
You see, what is reasonable in the sense of an accountant
Yes,
in this context
yes.
cannot be more than a month.
More than a month.
Yes.
Okay.
In this context.
Please, Secretariat, I would like you to take notice of that. He said that it's within 1 month that every correspondence and every money must be returned once it is collected. 1 month, not less than 1 month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Accountant General, government agencies from the recovery account give out loans to government agencies.
I know there are instances, I may not be specific. I know there are instances where, due to our revenue challenges and non-availability of funds in specific accounts, under some critical conditions, I know we do borrowings. And when we borrow, we state clearly it is borrowing. It's normal, and even though I cannot tell you specifics because I don't have the exact figure to tell you.
Again, do you borrow, let me just say, sometimes, it's not in the budget, they have critical needs, you borrow on budgetary borrowing. Extra budgetary borrowing. Do you do extra budgetary borrowing?
I am not aware of any extra budgetary borrowing. I am not aware of extra budgetary borrowing out not within the appropriation. I'm not aware. I am not really aware. Okay. Yes, I've seen this, and
The question was if the loan was refunded.
I have not even seen where this stands to be a borrowing, sir. I've been struggling. I've been struggling to see. Okay.
This is from the Office of Accountant General. Okay?
These are two different amounts. The first one is $20 million. The second one is $23 million. And so they are two different amounts, sir.
Take this.
It's the first one given to me.
Anyway, okay, even if, you said there's the $23 million.
Yes, sir.
Is stated as borrowing.
It is.
I asked you, the borrowed fund, was it refunded?
I know at different times we made representation to the then Honorable Minister of Finance to the effect that some of these borrowings need to be provided for in the budget and paid for. And as far as I know, this in particular, or that 23 in particular, which is tagged as borrowing, I cannot conclude here that it has been paid because I need to go down the records to determine exactly if it is paid or not. But I know if it is tagged as borrowing, it should be paid.
Okay, I think there's still another set of borrowing which will from the recovery account are not being refunded. Unless you're able to prove to us that they were refunded, we'll consider that to mean that payments have been made illegally. So what I'm ruling now is to give you till Thursday, to give us evidence that those funds were refunded. Thank you. So, and that's why I've ruled that you present this paper. We will not have that session in public because there are a lot of things we need to know. If our fund is being used in our own interest without our knowledge, we want to know. That's why I use the word in our own interest without our knowledge, without appropriation. We need to understand how it's being used so that accountability, even if you're using it our own interest, we should at least be accountable. We should give account of that fund that's being used in our own interest. Even if we don't give it publicly, we should give it privately so that at least public fund is not wasted. So I need you to look at it. There's so many others like that I have not given to you, but if you look at your record, you will see them. The same way you're referring to these, all those borrowings in line with that, to all the vital, critical ministry, the critical agencies that you borrowed them to. Please, we need to get evidence that they were refunded. If they were not refunded, we are aware that some of those funds for which you borrowed funds received budgetary allocation for the same project. So we need to clarify that, and then, at least when we meet, you agree for Thursday, and so that's why we decided that we're going to hold a private session on Thursday with him giving us breakdown. If they've not been refunded, we've got to find a way to ensure that we reconcile properly. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, for the benefit of the
Mr.
press,
Chairman, please, Mr. Cameraman or whatever, please shift a little, because I just want to just put something straight. I heard when they mentioned that 6.1 billion was sent to an account, that you said that's an operational account by EFCC, and NSA says it's not aware of the account. Yes.
No.
We want to, so that by the time you're feeding us now and later, we'll be on the right path to find out the legality of such funds. I don't know whether you got it right.
Well,
are you with me?
There could be some mix-up. Are we talking of recovery accounts, or what specific?
But you have mentioned 6.1 today that was sent to an account. You said it's operational by EFCC. Yes, sir.
I think there's a bit of confusion, but it's all part of the document.
No, so that by the time it's going to
what I'm explaining to you now is that we mentioned Office of NSA. In respect of this, you mentioned, and some of the other issues that we said you should bring on Thursday. I think we'll deal with it when it comes on Thursday. Thank you. My dear brothers and sisters, my honorable colleagues, trust you, if I knew you were fasting, maybe I would have taken you before this morning.
I speak better when I'm fasting.
Oh, okay. So maybe when you're coming on Thursday, please continue to fast. I appreciate you. One of the things you will understand from our proceedings is that we mean well. We've been given a mandate that's in the interest of our nation. Much as we want to do, we want to do it in such a way that safeguards the security of the nation as well. We want to protect our country. We want to ensure that funds, public funds, there's transparency in the utilization of public funds. There's transparency in the management of recovered assets. We're looking at all that. So we'll thank you for your cooperation. We'll thank you for the fact you've given. There are a lot of things that we've ruled that you should produce.
Hereby move for an adjournment of this session till tomorrow, 27th at 10 a.m. I so move.
Mr. Chairman.
Good morning. So now is more as we go on in this morning's music. Chief Host,
Lieutenant General Ibrahim Atahiru, alongside other officers of the Nigerian Army and Air Force, who last week lost their lives in a most unfortunate air accident. On behalf of the House of Representatives, I extend my sincere condolences to their families and pray that they are comforted through the abundant grace of God. since the minute silence has already been observed, let us in our hearts pray for the departed, late General Ibrahim Atahiru, Brigadier General M.I. Abdul Kadir, Brigadier General Olayinka, Brigadier General Kulia, Major Hayat, Major Hamza, Sergeant Umar, Flight Lieutenant Asani, Flight Lieutenant Olufade, Sergeant Additional, and ACM Oyedepo. They all died in the service of our nation. May their souls rest in peace. Lieutenant General Ibrahim Atahiru and the soldiers and the airmen who died with him gave to our nation the last full measure of devotion. It is for us, the living, to show fidelity to the cause they served by rededicating ourselves to the task of building a more perfect union. Through the achievement of lasting peace and abiding prosperity, we honor the memory of those who have given their lives that this nation may live. Today, at this time of our national history, when insecurity threatens the authority of the state and the foundations of our nationhood, when the activities of bandits, insurgents, and criminals of every stripe impede our efforts at progress and prosperity, we must confront the realization that our previous and current approaches to addressing the challenges of insecurity have not yielded the desired results. Ultimately, an enduring peace depends on our ability to build a society where individuals can aspire to and achieve their righteous ambitions on the strength of their effort and regardless of the status of their birth. Yet, achieving this kind of society depends on securing the lives of our people, protecting property and investment, and ensuring that people can freely traverse the length of our country without fear of danger or molestation. The legislative obligation to make laws for the good governance of the country exists alongside a duty to make sure that the policies we develop and the legislation we consider and pass address the most pressing concerns of the Nigerian people. Policies and legislation must also include the considered contributions of our citizens and be capable of meeting the highest ambitions of our nationhood. We have convened this special summit on national security to jointly, as citizens and public servants, find solutions to the problems of insecurity in our country. We are here because we know that our nation, our national ambitions will not be attained without lasting peace and security. We are here to have honest conversations about who we are, where we are, how we got here, and the hard choices we must make to guarantee a secure future for all our nation's children. We will, over the next few days, consider the contributions of a cross-section of Nigerian people and develop therefrom recommendations that take into proper account the social and constitutional, political, and economic factors that contribute to insecurity in our country. We will identify specific legislative actions and make practicable recommendations for executive action. We do not seek and do not have it in our power to put an end to all conflict. Our responsibility in government is to ensure that the lives and property of all the people within Nigeria are safe from the predations of those who use violence for profit or in service of religious or ethnic objectives. And to make sure that whosoever raises arms against our country is served the full measure of justice. This summit is not an avenue for name-calling, for apportioning blame, or absolving responsibility. Our national house is on fire, and the people we serve rightly expect that we devote all our energies and resources to trying to improve the future rather than be paralyzed in the present, grieving about the errors and failures of the past. It is by the work we do now that we can redeem ourselves and save our beloved country. This summit, therefore, must be and is solution-driven. Our deliberations in this summit and the recommendations that emerge therefrom will reflect all the factors that have precipitated our present circumstances, including issues of economic fairness, the allocation of state resources, the deficiencies of our criminal justice system, and the role of critical national institutions such as the National Assembly, the judiciary, and the state and local government. The work of this summit will be conducted behind closed doors to allow informed stakeholders to engage frankly on matters of national security in a protected environment. This way, we can participate in an exhaustive consideration and cross-fertilization of ideas. Already, thousands of memoranda and other submissions have been received and reviewed. These will also form part of the summit's report and recommendations. This summit will produce recommendations for legislative action, and the National Assembly will begin to implement this immediately. We will present to His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, DCFR, our recommendations for executive action, and Mr. President has assured me that he will receive and consider the report as a good faith contribution by Parliament to address a matter of urgent national importance. Let me at this juncture say this is a collaboration of both the executive and the legislative arms of government. Indeed, Mr. President, I got a call from his office a couple of days ago. And for want of a better word, he was excited about being here personally himself today. But unfortunately, yesterday, things came up, and I was called by Mr. President. Will either Zoom in or be represented by the SGF, who hopefully will be here before the close of business today. So Mr. President is on all fours, all hands are on deck, and I must say at this point also, off the cuff, that when nations go through crisis, as we have seen in advanced countries that we try to emulate the best from. 9/11 in the United States, for example. When nations go through crisis, they do so in oneness of spirit. They forget persuasions. Color, creed, religion, parties have no place. The nations pull together in times of crisis. This is what I expect us to do in Nigeria at this time. The work we will do here over the next few days will only yield the desired results if we all across government recognize that only an all-of-government approach can guarantee our success in overcoming the challenge of insecurity in Nigeria. I ask that in that spirit, we resolve to work productively with one another in the joint task of securing our nation and protecting our people. Ladies and gentlemen, we are a nation under attack. Our victory in this present battle depends greatly on our ability to set aside our differences and mobilize in one accord against an impending catastrophe that threatens all of us. Again, like I said, regardless of language, religion, politics, or status. It may well be that it is in the crucible of this battle for survival that we become a nation fully formed. Therefore, we must rise to the moment with passion and perspective. We hope for peace and desire its benefits. Yet neither fervent hope nor heartfelt desire will suffice, because the ends of peace require action. As in the words of the former American President Bill Clinton, he said, and I quote, "Peace must be waged with a warrior's resolve, bravely, proudly, and relentlessly, secure in the knowledge of the single greatest difference between war and peace. In peace, everybody wins." Let us, in this defining moment, work together to pursue the things that make for peace. Let us dedicate ourselves to ending violence and disorder in our land and to improving the quality of life for all our nation's people. Let us work together to uphold the honor and glory of Nigeria and free our nation to be a place of peace and justice forevermore. Let me again at this juncture thank our eminent royal fathers. There's no gainsay the role they have to play when it comes to ensuring peace and stability in Nigeria. On behalf of the House of Representatives, I thank you. You've been here for a couple of days. You've dedicated yourself to this cause. This event was supposed to hold on Monday, but for what happened? When I spoke to the Sultan and the Oni of Ife, as inconvenient as it was, because they had to go back to their respective domains, they remained because they believed that this was a worthy cause that was being pursued. And I thank you for your dedication and your service. I want to thank the service chiefs. You've just lost one of your own, a bright star. But I want to thank you on behalf of the House for your dedication to service, for your commitment, that in spite of all that's happened in the last few days, you remain committed. You are gallant soldiers, officers and gentlemen who rely on, who risk their lives on men in uniform every day so that this country may survive. For you, we owe our eternal debt of gratitude. I thank His Excellency, the President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, for his support for this special summit on national security. I assure all Nigerians that the House of Representatives remains committed to doing our part to enhance the government's efforts at securing our country and protecting the lives and investments of Nigerians and all those who believe in our country. And I thank you all for your presence here this morning.
Once again, condole the CDS and our armed forces for the loss that we suffered. It was a great loss, a very gallant, heroic, and patriotic chief of army staff rather, and other officers of the Nigerian Army as well as the Air Force. May their souls rest in perfect peace. Amen. Let me start by commending the leadership of the House for organizing this special summit on national security. I believe that this is a very worthwhile summit, and that's why we have the presence of all that are concerned. I want to say here that Nigeria is at a crossroad today. The very essence of the existence of this country is under serious threat. What started as simply an insurgency in 2009 or so in the northern part of Yobe has now snowballed into full-scale insurgency in the entire Northeast. What was not known to us in the Northwest is with us today in the form of banditry and kidnapping. The North Central, as we all know, is not saved. We suffer the clashes between the herders and our farmers. And a recent introduction in the Southeast is another serious threat to the existence of this country, where government institutions are targeted, our police, our Our security agencies personnel are being killed on a daily basis. Our institutions, buildings are burnt. I believe that these are threats not only to those areas, but to the entire nation. And our armed forces are doing their best. I must commend our armed forces and other security agencies for doing so much with the little we are able to give them. The National Assembly has always been on the side of giving the kind of support, either legislative or the kind of financial support that the armed forces and indeed all other security agencies require, even though we have our limits. The essence of this summit, I'm sure, is to look for ways and means of improving the performance of our armed forces and other security agencies. This summit is essential because we are tested as a country. We are tested as a people. Criminals everywhere have found probably comfort in doing what they do. This is the time for the legislature and the executive arm of government to come even closer in finding solutions. And I want to take this opportunity to appeal and urge the executive arm of government to implement whatever will be the outcome of this summit. There were previous summits by the National Assembly. I recall we had a similar summit in the 8th Assembly, and I believe that the legislative perspective is essential in finding solutions to the myriad of security issues that affect our country today. I want to also appeal to all Nigerians for their continued support for the administration and for our armed forces and our security agencies. All hands must be on deck. The criminal has only one name. That is criminal. No criminal should have comfort in his ethnic enclave. No. Whoever, wherever that person is, once he's a criminal, he's simply a criminal and must be dealt with in the appropriate manner, regardless of where he or she is coming from. It is also important that we provide resources or more resources for our security agencies to enable them better to tackle the criminal activities going across the country. And our armed forces can do that. But the fact remains, we have not enabled them enough. Today in this country, there is no better investment than investing in the security of our people. We must ensure that we protect the lives and the property of our people. This is the essence of government. So while the National Assembly should work hard, as it always does, to provide more resources, I also want to say that we must review the procurement processes by the security agencies. While we are not going to open up how they do these things to the public, but as parliamentarians, those who approve the funding, we must understand how these procurement processes are undertaken. If the processes require that we change the way we do them because of inefficiencies, we should go ahead and do so. Because it's not enough to just put in more resources, but how the resources are deployed with economy, with prudence and efficiency. Finally, because this is a goodwill message, not a lecture, I want to once again appeal to us in the National Assembly. The security agencies, we know, are doing their best. But I think it's high time that we work with the executive arm of government to look at the architecture of our security system for better performance. And when I mention the architecture, I also want to mention that all levels of government are responsible for securing the lives and property of Nigerians. All levels of government, federal government, states, and the local governments. And of course, it is a well-known fact that the local government doesn't function. The local government system doesn't function. That takes away a lot from our efforts at providing security for lives and property of our people. And when I mention the local government system not functioning, our traditional rulers who had played major roles in protecting us today have no function, more or less. It's only when there are problems we look for them. In the northern part of the country, and I dare say in all parts of Nigeria, our traditional rulers had played key roles in ensuring security in their domains. Why can't we look at the possibility of providing an official function for them, even if it is an advisory capacity in the Constitution? So finally, I want to once again congratulate Mr. Speaker and the leadership of the House, and indeed the entire House membership, for organizing this very important special summit on our national security, and I wish all of us very productive and fruitful sessions. Thank you very much. God bless all of us.
The traditional leaders are partners in progress to the political leaders of our great country. We don't have any competition whatsoever as regards running the affairs of this country, because we believe in changes, and when changes happen, you must accept the change, because only Almighty Allah makes changes possible. We're all very aware, some of us here are very young, but you read history. And if you read history books, you know our institution, the traditional institution, existed before Nigeria came together in 1914. Before we were colonized, we've had Sokoto Caliphate, have Oyo Empire, have the Great Ife, and other Kanem Borno Empire, and so on and so forth. And the leaders were leading very well with the fear of Almighty Allah, Almighty God. But when we were colonized and we were put together as Nigeria, we still played a role. And until, I think, the 1976 reforms that took away all the good things the institution stands for, the institution has been doing for centuries. We've had it so good. Now things are really very bad. It doesn't take anybody to know, yes, Nigeria is in a very, very bad situation, and it's a fact. And I'm happy to hear the two leaders of the National Assembly saying that personally and in public. Let's not deceive ourselves that things are all right. Things are not all right. We know it and we feel it and we see it. For some of us who have seen so much in our lives, my 31 years as a military officer, I don't know where these young officers were when I was still in service, the Chief of Defense Staff and Corps. They were very junior officers. My 31 years took me to Pakistan as a defense advisor. The generals here know what defense advisor does when he goes to other countries. And I covered Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, that's the Gulf states, for 3 years. At the end of my tenure, I came back to National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, for my course. And after the course, 2 weeks before the end of the course, Almighty Allah brought me to this position at Sultan. 2 weeks before I ended, before the graduation ceremony. When I was in NIPS, my paper was on religious extremism as a national security problem. I was a colonel. I didn't know a few months later I would be on this seat. And I researched, talked to religious leaders, talked to political leaders, and I found out what really religious extremism is. And based on my own knowledge as a 3-year DA in Pakistan, covering the most troublesome areas of the world, and it's still the most troublesome area in the world, the Middle East and the Gulf states. So some of us have this experience. From the time I became Sultan till now, for 11 years plus, we've been having such gatherings to talk about Nigeria, national security, development, and whatever. 11 years plus. And I've been here for 14 years plus. We have talked and talked. We have talked at Northern Governors Forum level with all the traditional rulers in the north. We've talked at national level, where I happen to be the chairman and the ONI is the co-chairman of that body. We have talked and talked and talked. In the last 1.5 months, we've had 3 serious gatherings like this, with the highest security echelons in the country, with the highest leadership of this country. Today we are here once again to talk on the same issues of national security. I think enough of these talks. Let's walk the talk. Because the more we sit here and talk, the more time we waste in taking real actions. Because we know the problems. I'm not going to say anything here that I have not said in the last 7 years. So I'm not going to give a lecture like the Senate President said. You're trying to give a lecture, but it's important when you come to public forum like this, you say some few things. I wish this gathering is a very formal one where you don't have media, so that I can discuss some of these issues very, very well. You know the problems. And honestly, I thought we are coming to a closed-door program with the leadership of the House of Reps and other major stakeholders like the service chiefs, whom we can open up to them. But some of them know what we feel, what we think about some of the issues, because they know we know what they know. And we collaborate with them. So my own take on this summit, yes, it's important to sit and talk, but it's much more important to implement what we have talked about. We can't just continue talking, and we don't implement. I bet you can come back 3 or 4 months later for another security summit. We will discuss the same things we are going to discuss today, because we don't implement. But it's good that we have such a forum, and I want to thank the Speaker for thinking out loud to convene this program. At least we are together from various parts of the country, and it's important that we keep on sitting together to talk. Yes, let's talk. Let's see one another. Let's greet one another, so that will exude hope in the masses that their leaders are talking. But behind the talk, let's go back to serious issues of implementing whatever comes out from such forum, and with honesty, sincerity, and fear of God. So many things we do, so many things our leaders do. You say one thing today, tomorrow you change. You say one thing publicly, and people will clap for you. When you go back in your comfort zone, you throw everything away. That's why I say with fear of God, because whatever you do, God is seeing you. You don't see him, but he sees you. And as leaders, God is going to ask us to account for the leadership he gave us here on earth. And all of us here will account for our deeds here. This is where we can do well, that when we meet our Creator, we'll be much, much happier with him. So I call on our leaders, the political leaders in particular, please fear God. Do what is right. Don't look at ethnic, religious, or personal interests while you are doing your own duties. You've had so many resolutions on the floor of the House. How many of them have been implemented? You need to sit down and talk. You pass resolutions, executive, legislature, have they implemented some of those things? Because you are the eyes and ears and mouth of the common man. But the common man voted for you. They didn't vote for you to come to Abuja and see the beautiful buildings and roads that we don't have in our villages. So know that it's a responsibility placed on you by Almighty Allah. You will account for it. It's high time we put aside all the ethnic and religious profiling, which was incidentally was our theme for our Interreligious Council meeting, quarterly meeting, last week, Wednesday. Ethnic and religious profiling. But that's the issue. Whatever happens, the first thing is they'll say a Fulani herdsman. Whatever happens, they say, but when it comes to terms of banditry or whatever it is, there's no like, some of you have already said, stop profiling criminals. Call them by their name, criminals. And then we'll be much happier. Because no ethnic bloc or religious bloc will be happy when every day you keep on calling his own side of the coin the very, very bad one. Even when you know that you are much, much more in number, the good ones are much, much more in number. The very few ones, yes, Fulanis do all these bad things, we know. So do Yorubas, Igbos, Efiks, Ibibios, and so on and so forth. So unless we come together and look at the greater figure, that is Nigeria, and work for Nigeria to move on, we'll continue groping in the dark and we'll continue having these problems. So when the speaker called me and said, please don't go back, we push this into Wednesday, yes. We are here, we're talking about security, and one of our own, when his time was up, Almighty Allah took him. It's in the service of the country, it's in the service of security. And I told him, well, Honorable Speaker, I will stay back and listen to what you are going to say. I wish I could stay at the technical session also and contribute, because we have a lot. There are so many things that you cannot say publicly with these media people, especially with the worst, the social media. That's the worst. As lawmakers, what do you do? How do you handle such issues of the social media? Because before tomorrow and say Sultan calls for ban, also I didn't say so. I didn't say ban social media. But how do you regulate it? We have seen this thing happen all over the world. Why can Nigeria also borrow from that? See how we can safeguard our national security for the national interest instead of the individual or other interests. It's important for us. So I hope this security seminar will bring some of these very strong issues out. And when you are ready with your decisions or whatever, you call some of us back, like the National Council of Traditional Rulers, the NAREC, which is a body of the senior religious leaders in the country. We'll sit together again once more. And I want to thank all of you for inviting us, and wish you all the very best and most successful seminar. And may we have the strength and the grace of Almighty Allah to implement whatever we have discussed here. Somebody put a paper that time is up. You don't tell Sultan time is up. Whenever I finish, it's my time. And if the speaker who speaks, we talk. So since only the speaker who can now say something like that. So we thank you very much and wish you all the very best.
All of you to give his good message.
We don't have any other place. The nation belongs to all of us. We're here talking. The organizer, Honorable Speaker, spoke first, welcomed all of us, followed by the Senate President. We all know their positions in this country. Senate President is, by virtue of counting this country, is the number 3 man in this country. The Speaker, too, the number 4 man in this country. His Eminence spoke as well. And you can see the trajectory of everything that they are saying the same thing. The gatekeepers of their nation are here, service chiefs. And if you look at this all, on the average, the age of each and every one of us here is between the bracket of 50 and about 60, early 60s. And anybody can challenge me if I'm wrong. Our dear country that has brought all of us together here, the youngest serving governor is only 46 years old. And we all know the demography of this country. The demography of this country is above 50, all the way to age of dependency is less than 30%. But between the age of 18 to under 40, we have them in numbers of more than 70%. And we're talking about security here. Who are the active participants whenever we have breakdown of law and order? It is the average age of 18 to 39. And that's the truth. Are they ghosts? Are they invisible? The answer is no. They are human beings. Even our laws, our constitution, they will say at some point, very active civil servants will live on the average of 60 years old. Because they know why. Because they are getting tired. Maybe the judiciary extends till 70 years old. Some 65. They won't say 35 or 30 years, whichever comes earlier. We all know all these laws. But every time we're talking the talk, we're talking the talk. Number 2 man, number 3 man, number 4 man, they are all saying the same thing the way His Eminence said it. And the participants are not faceless. They are not ghosts. It is very idiotic and stupidity for us to be doing the same thing over and over and over again and expect a different result. We will continue to get the same result. Let's be very truthful and honest to ourselves in this country. We all know the problems. How well are we carrying along these people in that age bracket who are representing that age bracket in this hall? The answer is no. We are not engaging them at all. But whenever we want to go for political posts, appointments, we go back to them. We know the good, we know the bad, and the ugly in their category. As traditional rulers, they are the most active in our system. Let us tell ourselves the truth. They are hungry and they are angry. I repeat, they are hungry and they are very angry. All of us that are here, I'll be very happy if anybody can raise up their hand and say, I can go to my area of constituents, my local governments, and I can stay there in peace for 1 week. Who can do it here? Including our gatekeepers. Who can do it here? Including the Senate President, including the Speaker. But you left the traditional rulers. You left district heads, the baales, to continue to stay there. And you are saying all will be well in this country. We are the ones facing these youths. We know their problems, and we have been talking every time. You sit in beautiful offices, and you all think all will be well. Let us be very truthful in this country. Look at this beautiful building. As beautiful as this building is, if the foundation is wrong, the entire building will collapse because the foundation has a problem. In this gathering, the Senate President mentioned the key factor, the collapse of local government. It has collapsed. Let's be very truthful to ourselves. It has completely collapsed because that's the only arm of government that is, number one, the foundation of this country. You don't have any other foundation. We are only building on a castle that has been completely broken down. That is the foundation that will gather the most active age bracket for you in this country. You say we have 774 local governments and several wards. Where do we have the wards being put together? It's under the local government constituency. They are underfunded. You don't even reference them for anything. You don't even care about their administration. Where did we get it wrong in this country? We all have faults. All of us here. If we keep talking every time, we will not get any result. It's getting worse. They are getting more emboldened. They are now very bold and they are ready to face anybody because they are hungry and they are angry. Let us change our strategy. Let us change our style. You leave this age bracket. If there will be a problem, you will give them guns to start to move around. You will never see anybody above our age in our comfort zone here that is really ready to face the music. It's very important for all of us to know that we are not all safe. We are not safe at all. Let us engage a lot of youth organizations that are very relevant, that understands the local government administration, the governance within every district, every category of the localization of this country. It's very important for us, and continue to engage them in every program we do in this country. You have neglected that category completely. The hall we are right now, you have neglected them because they are not represented here. They are not at all. So what are we going to come out here to talk about? And that is our foundation. It is our foundation. We should be very serious in this country now. We should talk very seriously. This issue of security, this national security, is not the problem of the service chiefs. It's not the problem of the lawmakers. It's not the problem of the executive arm of government. It's the problem of all of us. How many of this active population that are under you that you are taking care of? What's the essence of you being a politician? That you cannot even move around freely. You cannot. Nobody. Do you think Abuja is only Nigeria? Or Lagos is only Nigeria? 36 states of this country. Some people are there, you left them, you abandoned them, and you are making laws and you are administering. What are you administering? I do not know. So let us talk to ourselves very seriously. The people that are not ghosts, these people that are agitating left and right, we need to engage them. We need to actually engage them and separate the corn from chaff. We know the good and the bad amongst them. We can easily separate them by engaging them, draw them closer. And I will give you a good example from my own community. If a Modakeke war has been the very strongest communal clash in southwestern Nigeria, it's been on for a very long time. But what did I do? A very practical experience. I decided to engage the youths. For me to engage them one-on-one so that I can separate the bad one and the good one. Something happened recently. We almost had another breakdown of law and order. The boundary line of the two communities, some people started shooting sporadically. And the two communities started converging and moving away from the boundary lines. And they were agitating. The war has started again. The war has started again. I had to come out and call the youths around that we need to do it at the dead of the night. Let us go to the boundary and see the people that are doing all these things. Lo and behold, we went to the boundary and we realized that the youths of the two communities are trying to protect their own territory. At the end of the day, it is just an artificial noise that they are just raising. If we engage the people that are active, it will be a lot easier for each and every one of us. On this note, I want to thank the organizers, and I want to tell us that enough of us talking the talk. Let us walk the walk. God bless us and God bless Nigeria.
Senate President, our royal fathers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Let me, on this very solemn note, appreciate everyone who, in this our trying moment, have commiserated with us over the demise of the late Chief of Army Staff and our gallant officers and men in the last few days. We are here for a special summit on national security. National security seeks to guarantee the safety and well-being of the state and its citizens. The armed forces of Nigeria and other security agencies are tools of policy implementation on issues of national security. They, of course, are in the front line in terms of policy implementation, but as tools. Policies that are formulated are what they implement in the area of defense and security. And so this is the reason for which I find our invitation to be very expedient. I'd like to thank the Speaker and members of the House of Reps who have pulled this summit together and seen us fit or appropriate to be invited as part of those to talk. I also believe, and with very solemn due deference, that even though that we've been talking for such a long time, I also believe that talk cannot be enough. Yes, it is good for us to talk and do what we have spoken about. It is by talking that the actions that have been taken are reviewed. And then what has been left undone cannot be pointed out. I just thought I should put that in context. I know and I give due reverence to our revered traditional rulers who have made that reference. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. Peace is very expensive. Very expensive. But insecurity is more expensive than peace. Insecurity in various dimensions is more expensive. And if perhaps one will look at the component costs of peace, love for country, which of course has made our traditional rulers to extend their stay in Abuja to be able to be part of this discussion. And of course, everyone that is here having to give up other engagements to be here. It is because of love for country, which of course some have termed to be patriotism. Sacrifices of various forms, including paying the supreme price, is also a cost component to the peace. This, of course, is what the death of Ibrahim Atahiru, Lieutenant General, and other generals and personnel of the armed forces in recent time exemplifies. We equally have our men, officers and men in the front lines in various theaters of operation who have paid this price. It's all part and parcel of the cost for peace. And so putting together these various components, you find that my assertion to the fact that peace is very expensive comes very handy. Inconveniences that we find when security agencies implement certain policies and guidelines. Sometimes it's not convenient for the populace, it's not convenient for the citizens. These inconveniences, of course, are part and parcel of the cost for peace. The intention of the police and other security agencies to inconvenience, in parentheses, the populace is to the greater good of the citizens. The moral support that you give to the armed forces and security agencies is also part and parcel of this cost component for peace. And more importantly, I'd like to indicate that every one of us as Nigerians, we have a part to play in contributing to this cost for peace. This is why I'd like to thank every Nigerian using this medium to thank every Nigerian for the support they've given to the leadership of the armed forces and security agencies, and ensuring that as they undertake their responsibilities, their task of defending and providing the ambience for socio-economic activities to thrive in the country and for everyone to live in peace and harmony. The support that you've been providing is invaluable. We can only ask that you give us more of that support, and to also know that the leadership of the armed forces and the security agencies are mindful of the concerns that are being shown or that are being expressed across the country, and we promise that in line with the directive of the Commander-in-Chief, that we will take every measure necessary to bring peace to our fatherland. I would also like to use this opportunity to thank the National Assembly leadership and of course all its members being representatives of the people for the support they've given to the armed forces and security agencies on the course of their responsibility. We remain loyal to Mr. President, Commander-in-Chief, and to the Constitution, And I think it's necessary to also re-emphasize that we will defend the constitutional order at all times. Once again, as we deliberate during the course of this special summit on national security, I encourage everyone to please be forthcoming and to canvass ideas, solutions that will enable the various organs, not just of government, of course, every sector of the economy, to undertake the actions that they require to undertake. Once again, thank you and God bless.
Facing us as a nation today. It behooves all institutions and all Nigerians to stand up to the occasion and not leave everything to the security agencies alone. Security is everybody's business. I must take this opportunity to state very, very clearly that there is an incontrovertible evidence of a linkage between drug use and the spate of insecurity. Drugs are a clear propellant to the insurgency, banditry, kidnapping, ESN activities. We know that drug money funds their activities. We have arrested quite a few on their way to supply drugs to the insurgents. Since January, the NDLEA has seized over 2,000 tons and over 90 billion naira worth of drugs. Consider what a fraction of that could do in support of the criminal activities. Equally, the bandits, the insurgents, and the criminals use drugs before launching their nefarious missions. Now, history bears us out. It's not something that started in Nigeria. The service chiefs, His Eminence the Sultan, with 31 years of service under his belt in the armed forces, and indeed all students of military history will remember that in the initial stages of World War II, Nazi Germany's blitzkrieg offensive against Czechoslovakia in 1938, against Poland in 1939, the conquest of the Low Countries in the early 40s, leading to the invasion of France. The armored forces and crewmen were actually issued methamphetamine. They were issued drugs as official military issue to propel the advance. And so you had soldiers of Germany who were chemically enhanced, fearless, tireless, and went on for days on end without sleeping. This is what we are facing in Nigeria today. The insurgents, the bandits, these people kidnapping hundreds of school children, all of them are working under the influence of drugs. We know from our colleagues in the armed forces, once they secure a camp from Boko Haram, there are remnants everywhere of drugs. The insurgents have been asked the question, what is your most worrisome fear in your operations? And they have not said their fear is running out of ammunition or running out of food or weapons. Their greatest fear, they always say, is running out of drugs. Today, over 10 million Nigerians use cannabis, that is marijuana. Most of it smoking, but you know they eat it with pepper soups and stuff. Over 10 million naira. I didn't make 10 million Nigerians. I didn't make this up. This is from the UNODC survey. Therefore, Nigeria should be, in my opinion, the last country facing its current security challenges to contemplate a law to legalize cannabis. If we legalize cannabis in any way, shape, or form, we will soon turn into a nation of junkies and criminals. It's very clear that this has to come out of my mouth as the head of the Drug Law Enforcement Agency of Nigeria. So while commending this summit and the Honorable Speaker, please, I would like to draw attention that if we are doing a summit for security, we could not at the same time be trying to legalize one of the impetus for insecurity, which is drugs. It's almost like taking one step forward and 2 steps backwards. Thank you very much for listening.
So my sincere apologies for coming late. It is not in my character to come late to occasions, and I believe it's not even in the character of Mr. President to delegate somebody that will come late to occasions. So my apologies, Your Excellency, Your Royal Majesties, for coming late. Thank you so much. Now I read the speech of Mr. President, stating that I'm delighted to be invited to this special summit on national security organized by the leadership of the House of Representatives to deliberate on the myriad of defense and security challenges facing our nation. This summit could not have come at a better time because only a few days ago, Nigeria lost the Chief of Army Staff and a host of other senior military officers in a fatal plane crash involving a Nigerian Air Force asset. This is a painful loss to the nation, the military as an institution, and to our efforts to strengthen the security architecture and capacity. May the Almighty grant the souls of the departed, gallant soldiers, eternal rest. Amen. Security has become a major subject of concern at global, regional, and national levels. In different continents of the world, terrorism, political conflicts, racism, and other forms of criminal activities continue to threaten economic development, peace, and security. At the regional and sub-regional Africa, these concerns subside and continue to rage. Nigeria shares land borders with Benin, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger, and maritime boundaries with Equatorial Guinea, Ghana, and Sao Tome and Principe. The challenges that these international borders pose to our national security and interests are enormous. The instability and conflict in the Lake Chad region alone deserves very close attention. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, our nation has had to grapple with various forms of internal security issues over the past decade in all geopolitical zones. Addressing them effectively to restore safety, peace, and security, therefore, remains the responsibility of all Nigerians in and out of public office and our democratic institutions. It is with regard to the foregoing that I wish to commend the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Right Honorable Femi Bajabiamila, the leadership and members of the House of Representatives,
for the vision to convene this special summit. This step demonstrates that our growing democratic system, institutions, and ethos provide for us a good platform for various arms of government to collaborate and find solutions to national challenges of all magnitudes, including security. This special national summit forms part of the collective effort to identify the root causes of our national security challenges so that we can develop and implement solutions through policies, legislation, plans, budgetary provisions, robust oversight system, bilateral and multilateral engagement that would address our present and future needs. Insecurity, as you are aware, impacts on the citizens and the economy and the governance machinery without regard to political, religious, ethnic, or other affiliations. It challenges the foundation of our nationhood and stands in the way of our achieving our highest ambitions for Nigerians. I am certain that we shall overcome, just as we have done many times throughout our history. However, success at this time requires that we set aside all other considerations and commit ourselves to a common endeavor in the national interest. I am informed that the remaining 4 days of this summit will be held behind closed doors to allow for frank conversations around the 4 thematic areas of 1, local and community level security options and solutions, 2, strategic kinetic national security solutions, 3, global perspectives to insecurity and international factors in national security, and lastly, non-military security options and solutions. I wish to propose that you also consider the questions of politics and law, history and economics that are central to our national identity and yet too often constitute the root causes of our national security challenges. I also urge you to remember that the force of arms is most effective only when it is a part of a comprehensive strategic effort that includes 1, providing quality education, building infrastructure that supports job creation, and implementing safety net programs that protect the most vulnerable amongst us with the support they need to survive and overcome their dire circumstances. It is my expectation that your deliberation will yield, amongst others, specific legislative actions aimed at ensuring more effective operations of the national security agencies relating to matters of 1, structured funding of national security agencies, 2, overlapping mandates and interagency conflict, 3, intelligence sharing, 4, training and welfare of security and defense personnel, 5, non-kinetic security operations and strategies, 6, post-conflict rebuilding, amongst others. While I look forward to receiving bold and innovative recommendations, I wish to assure you of my support and collaboration of the executive arm of government. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I now have the singular honor and pleasure to declare this summit open and to assure you that the executive arm of government will continue to work with the National Assembly to ensure that we deal with the security challenges that confront the nation now and those that would arise in the future. I wish you all productive deliberations during this important national assignment. God bless you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
outside, please. Official program will summit. Thank you.
Nigerians trooped to 12 different centers across the country today to discuss changes to the Nigerian constitution as agitations grow over the state of the polity. And Delta State government says it has not received the payment of the Ibori loot as announced by the Accountant General of the Federation yesterday. We get details on the side of Delta State government. A pleasant evening to all of you, wherever you may be watching tonight. Welcome to Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimberley at Channels Television's global headquarters in Lagos, Nigeria. It's a midweek edition of the program, and we shall be giving you details and insights to the efforts being made to alter the 1999 Constitution. But before we get into that, let's tell you about what the Accountant General of the Federation said yesterday, which was in contradiction to the Attorney General of the Federation over the Ibori loot. The Minister of Justice told Channels Television that the funds will be plowed into 3 major federal projects. But the Accountant General said yesterday that the monies have been paid to Delta State government. But today, the Delta State government is reacting. It says that the £4.2 million Ibori loot from the United Kingdom to the federal government is yet to hit its coffers. Take a listen to the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor of Delta State.
We appreciate the willingness of the federal government to return that money to Delta State where it rightly belongs. But the truth is that that money has not hit the account of Delta for our state government. We saw it yesterday, like every other Nigerian, that when the Accountant General of the Federation, Ahmed Idris, while appearing before the House of Representatives Committee on Recovered Assets, made that statement, and there was this avalanche of inquiries to know whether the money had come to us. And the truth, like I told you, is that the money hasn't come. But we're happy that they've shown willingness, shown disposition to send the money. And we know that very soon the money will come, having started the process. And I must add that the state government is in constant touch with them. We were in contact with the federal government through the office of the Attorney General of the Federation. And I assure you that when the money arrives, like it's obvious it will arrive, and they haven't started the process as it were, we will acknowledge it and let the public know. We should also assure that, like we have always done, the money will be properly deployed to reasonable infrastructure that Deltans will appreciate.
Tonight, we will dwell on issues relating to Nigeria's structure and the agitations about the Constitution. But before we get started, let's check out some of your political roundup stories.
President Buhari says he believes Nigeria will overcome the current security challenges and is asking Nigerians to commit to a common endeavor in national interest. The president stated this during the opening session of the Special Summit on National Security organized by the House of Representatives. Meanwhile, the president of the Senate, Senator Ahmed Lawan, says the procurement processes by security agencies must be reviewed by the National Assembly and the architecture of the security system reviewed for better results. Governor Nasser El-Rufai has approved the disengagement of 19 political appointees in the first phase of public servants who will depart the public service in continuation of right-sizing the workforce. The governor in a statement thanks the departing officials for their services to the state and wishes them well in their future endeavors. It's a joyous mood in the camp of the PDP and that of Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State as the governor applauded the appeal court for upholding his victory at the polls and the tribunal ruling. The governor says the verdict of the Court of Appeal is another victory for Edo people, a testament to the fairness and equity of the judiciary. Meanwhile, his deputy, Philip Shaibu, has described the judiciary as being courageous and ready to defend the common man at all times.
My joy is that first to thank God thank the judges for being courageous and to also thank our legal team and Edo people for their prayers.
The president of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has pledged more support for women in politics in order for them to excel and reap the dividends of democracy. Speaking at an event in Damaturu, the Yobe State capital, to celebrate women in politics, organized by Forum for Promotion of Gender Equity and Moral Values, Senator Lawan insists that many women can perform better than some men.
So let's get to it, everyone, shall we? The public hearing for the alteration of the Nigerian Constitution has begun across different centers in the regions as scheduled by the Senate committee in charge of the Constitution Amendment. The two-day exercise witnessed some attendance from civil society, the non-governmental organizations, traditional institutions, the political class, and labor. In Lagos, the senator who represented the deputy Senate president, who is the chairman of the amendment committee, Senator Oluremi Tunwe, also a member of the committee, says the idea of the constitutional amendment is to resolve some of the problems of the nation. Take a listen to what she said at the sideline of that event.
Nobody's even talking about the children. Nobody. So we all think that, oh, some people are, they're being neglected. So who comes and speak on behalf of the children? And I pray that tomorrow we will have people to come and talk about child's rights. And we can see a lot of things happening to them. So when we look at it, it's very easy to point at government that government is selfish. But you can see everybody is only just very few people are talking about the generality of the Constitution, how it affects them. You can see everybody is just looking at the bit that it affects them, which is great. But we are going to look at it, and then you can see what this 9th Assembly is doing. We are looking at the previous amendments, what did not make certain things scale through, and see whether it suits the times we are living in.
Well, in the Lagos Center, the Lagos State Governor, who also attended the event and declared it open, is seeking for a special status for Lagos. What does that mean? Take a listen to Governor Sanwo-Olu.
For us in Lagos State, the issue of state police and fiscal federalism are top of the priority list for us. In this ongoing review process, equally fundamental, particularly for us in Lagos, is the issue around the special economic status for Lagos. Considering our place in national economy and the special burden we bear by virtue of our large population and the very limited landmass that we have. I believe the need for this special status has been sufficiently articulated and justified. It suffices for me at this point to restate that this request is by no means a selfish one, but one that is actually in the interest of every Nigerian and of Nigeria as a nation. The progress and prosperity of Nigeria is inextricably linked to the progress and prosperity of Lagos State. A special status for Lagos State, therefore, must be a concern not only for the people of Lagos State alone, but for the entire Nigerian nation.
So you heard him there. Well, don't forget that it's not only in Lagos that all this happened. It is happening across the different regions, at least in 12 centers, 2 centers for each of the regions, the southeast, the south-south, the northeast, the northwest, the south-south, and also the north-central. You have all of the regions captured in all of this. So let's get some perspectives on the exercise, the significance and the prospect of this process answering to the agitations of Nigerians. Interesting scenarios have played out in all of this. But you might be seated wherever you may be. Maybe you are waiting to watch the Manchester United game and the Europa League final, or you are in the comfort of your living room, or in fact you are on the road, or perhaps you're trying to get your generator to start to watch this television show. let me get what you might be thinking, perhaps tonight, is the fact that how does this answer to the many questions you have on your mind? I have some of those questions also, but then the question is, where do we go from here? The agitation is right across the land. I have a panel that will be answering some of your questions tonight. Where do we go as a nation? Scrapping, amending the Constitution is that answer. I'm being joined by Senator Teslim Folari, representing Oyo South at the Senate. He joins us from Ikeja area of Lagos. And from our Abuja studio is Professor Abubakar Sulaiman. He is the Director General of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us. And virtually is Dr. Usman Bugaje, a former federal lawmaker and political historian. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight on the program. So let's get started. In the 7th and in the 8th Assembly, there are efforts to amend the Constitution, but those exercises failed. They didn't sail through. Let me begin the conversation tonight with Dr. Usman Bugaje. Doc, give us an understanding of, you've spoken about some of these processes. You've given insight on what this means for Nigeria. Do you hope that this exercise will help in answering those critical questions that have caused agitations across the land?
Very much for inviting me to this, even though I will not be staying long. But let me say straight away, every Nigerian is yearning for a better constitution that we have. So I have no doubt in my mind that we can do with a much better constitution than the one we're operating. But I also think that we should not be carried away by the amendments that might come through this constitution to ignore the fact that what essentially matters is not so much the constitution, that's the product, but also the process, because the process is what confirms legitimacy to the product. And it's very important that we pay attention to the process itself. But also important, I think at this point in time, we have to ask the Senate, and that also applies to the House of Representatives, what exactly is the priority of the country at this point in time? I don't know what the priority of the two chambers are, but I'm certain that the priority of Nigerians at the moment is security, because in the hierarchy of human life, the hierarchy of human needs, human life comes first. And therefore, whatever we are going to do, we have to make sure that first there is security for human life. And in this respect, the National Assembly must, ask its own questions. At this point in time, is it really the kind of thing that you want to be doing? I'm not saying it's not important. I'm not saying we should not do it, but I'm saying that we have got to prioritize, and we cannot ignore the context within which we are operating. So coming back to the point, part of the problem why amendments have not sailed through is the same reason why certain laws that have taken time to be enacted by the National Assembly has not been signed, like the last Electoral Act is still hanging. I can't remember the excuses that were given by the president for not signing it, but I think one of them was that time was too short. So if it was just time that was too short, after the election, this law should have been signed. So the people are reading motives both within the legislature and the executive. And therefore, this is why we need to come clean, be transparent, allow people to speak their minds. Democracy is about ideas, it's about expression of opinions. You don't have to like them. But you see, it's healthier for society to express its opinions and to submit to a superior wisdom or superior argument after the discussions, rather than just simply to shut people down. So yes, there have been amendments before that did not succeed. They did not succeed because the National Assembly itself, even in doing what they were doing, they did not come out clearly to show that they were committed to the process itself. And there were lots of other things. For example, the effort of the qualification to contest election is something that many people cannot bring to the National Assembly at the moment. We have a problem of competence in governance. And at the moment, the believe it's simply secondary school education or equivalent. Why should we in the 21st century, forget about the issue of.
I think we're having an issue with the connection with Dr. Bugaje there. But let me bring Professor Sulaiman into the conversation. The big question we're looking at now is the issue of how the past process failed. And for those who have criticized this process, saying, look, what has happened? We spent billions of naira executing these processes, and at the end of the day, it's not signed, it won't come through. But give us a sense of history. What happened to the 7th, 8th assembly processes of this constitutional amendment? Why they failed? Do you see same thing happening this time around?
Thank you very much, Seun. I'm not a parliamentarian, but at least as an historian and political scientist, we have some variables, some data to work with. Yes, there are so many issues, so many factors responsible for the failure of the past exercises. And one of those issues, as you rightly know, is purely political, especially as to do with the 8th Assembly. There were so many nagging political issues. There were frictions between the National Assembly and the executive. There were a lot of infightings between members of the National Assembly. These contestations among the various actors in the 8th Assembly was responsible for the failures, for the lack of frictions, for the lack of ease movements of passage of bills and some other, fundamental issues. In the 7th Assembly, we have just one political party in control, the PDP then, and you begin to wonder what really happened. But I want to believe that then what happened was purely because at the point we are talking about amending the Constitution then, we had in place a conference, what we call a confab, that the report was submitted, awaiting National Assembly, deliberations on it, and before you know it, election setting, and as you all know, nothing was done. But fundamentally, I want to believe that, as my colleagues Bugaje pointed out, the questions of amending the Constitution is not much of the question, but the process of the amendments. Secondly, the Constitution has been a problem. There are so many fundamental issues that borders on fiscal, federalism, issue that borders on gender inclusivity, issue that borders on electoral reform, issue that borders on child rights, issue that borders on alienations by certain sections of Nigerian people. These are fundamental issues that need to be looked into. And I wouldn't want to subscribe to the notion that we have to leave one problem for another problem to be solved. We can solve the problem simultaneously. Yeah, there are security issues. Yeah, there are economic crises. But those, contradictions, what I call the centrifugal force that are pushing us apart, need to be looked into. I think with the new National Assembly, and the kind of harmony between National Assembly and the executive, or to be precise, between the legislature and the executive, I do not see the kind of frictions, the kind of infighting, the kind of problem we identify or we saw in the 8th Assembly, emitting again under this. So I want to believe in the leadership of this 9th Assembly. Yeah, there are issues. People came from different, political nation. They came from different geopolitical zones. We have so many tribes, we have so many ethnic groups, we have so many religious groups. These are fundamental secondary contradictions that are there. But I want to believe with the kind of harmony we are enjoying now, with the kind of smooth sailing process, with the kind of relationship existing between the executive and the National Assembly, I want to see a situation where, with the willingness on the part of the leadership of the National Assembly, I want to believe that this time around, the amendment to the Nigerian Constitution, as is commencing today, we have a smooth sailing, and by next year, hopefully before election, we have a new brand constitution.
Okay, so let me go back to Dr. Bugaje. I know politics is science. Sometimes you need to have your data, to have your hypotheses and you go from one data to the answer. But sometimes we have to also speak to reason. You have to also look at issue of psychology to be able to predict properly in our political climate. So let me put you on the spot, Dr. Usman Bugaje, tonight. Do you think that this present political leadership in the country has the political will to ensure that this process will sail through? Because it's another kettle of fish entirely to have the process go through the legislative process, then have the executive append it and sign it off. Do you see that happening? Do you see the president, let me be frank, the president happen to sign this off at the end of the day?
It's a straight no. I don't think so. I'll be glad if they can prove me wrong. This particular National Assembly has lost the respect of the executive arm of government. We have seen that severally. How many times have they called? They have made resolutions upon resolutions. They have been ignored by the executive arm. And therefore, they don't seem to me to have even the respect of the executive. To be able to see through these processes. Electoral Act, they did it, they sent it for assent, and it has not been assented to. What have they done? If there is something wrong with the grudge or whatever, let them bring it back to the National Assembly. These are some of the litmus tests, of their own ability or their own political will. And they have shown severally through some of these things. I would be glad if they do. I would be happy if they become angry with what I'm saying and say, let us prove him wrong. I'll be very happy to be proven wrong. But as far as I can see and as far as I know, and I don't claim to know everything or to see everything, I can say for now that there is no hope that whatever exercise comes through is going to sail through. But I'm waiting to be proven wrong, and I'll be glad to.
All right. So, Dr. Bugaje and Professor Sulaiman, let me play this soundbite for you. It's one of the incidents that happened earlier today at the public hearing. One of the groups represented and make presentation is a fixed politics initiative. Something came out to me as an attendee of that event, is the fact that they are saying that that exercise is in futility. We do not need a public hearing. That's according to them. They say it should be scrapped. What we need is a brand new constitution. Take a listen to E.A. Jonathan, who represented a fixed politics initiative there at the Lagos presentation.
We have asked several questions. We at the Fixed Politics Initiative urge the National Assembly to consider the following. 1, initiate a process towards the creation of a new constitution, as an amendment is inadequate to address the multiple structural issues that threaten the Nigerian state. 2, halt the current constitutional amendment process and immediately initiate a multi-stakeholders discussion of the pathway to a new citizens-led constitution. 3, enact a law that will outline the drafting and transition process in support of B above. And lastly, enact a constitutional amendment process that will authorize a referendum to accept the outcome of the drafting of the new constitution.
Dr. Bugaje, you heard her there, and this has stated that what we need is a brand new constitution. According to that group, do you think that some of the things she stated there and the demands of this group is realistic? Do you think that that is the way to go?
This is democracy. We must admit all views, all ideas, and we should not simply throw them away because we don't like them or because we don't understand them. So I would rather we put this on discussion. Let it be discussed. Let people, be allowed to express their own views on this. In other words, this is one view among other views. Now, which view should prevail eventually is the view that has got a stronger argument. And that's how discussions should go. So don't look at who is presenting. Look at the substance of what is being presented and see if you have got a better argument. Fine. Then the obvious thing would be, okay, the process of enacting a new constitution is going to be cumbersome, is going to be this, but it's something that would be needed at some stage of our own evolution as a state. Granted that we may not be able to do that now, and we want to do amendments, fine, we can say, fine, this is an idea that we can plan for. Meanwhile, we need to amend issues like the devolution of power, issues like the wealth sharing, issues of citizenship and the indigenship, and these kind of issues that are vexing or that are heating the system at the moment. We can do that. But I think what they are saying, they have got every right as Nigerians to express their own view and to marshal their own argument. And for me, what we require to do is to engage with some of these ideas, and at the end of the day to say, okay, what are those ideas that have got a superior argument, or those that are likely to be much better for the nation eventually? This is how it should go.
We're due for a commercial break. Stay with us, gentlemen. We take a break, and when we return, my panel will resume the conversation on which way forward Nigeria. Repeal, remove, amend, fix the constitution. What is the way out of this quagmire the nation Nigeria has found itself? Will the people be able to rise up in getting a solution to their own problems? Let's get back to the conversation after this break, everyone. Join us again. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us right here on Politics Today on Channels Television. The conversation is perhaps the most serious conversation in the land, which a lot of people think might be the solution to our problem. So take a look at some of the points for the constitutional amendment in the public hearing that is holding for 2 days across 12 centers in Nigeria. So issues of federal structure in governance and devolution of power, local government administration and local government autonomy, public revenue, fiscal federalism and revenue allocation, establishment of state police, election reforms and justice delivery, issues of residency and indigenship, immunity removal in prima facie criminal cases, constitutional roles for traditional rulers, states and local government creation. These are some of the issues. On my panel tonight, earlier on we had Dr. Usman Bugaje, but he's since left because of some of other engagement that he has. Professor Abubakar Sulaiman is still with us right here on the program. And we've since been joined by Senator Teslim Folarin, the senator representing Oyo South in the National Assembly. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for staying with us right here on the program. Let me perhaps bring Senator Folarin into the conversation before I go to Abuja studio with Prof. Senator, a lot of Nigerians are agitated and they're hoping that they can get answer to the nagging challenges and the problems the nation is facing. Issue of security top the agenda, state policing, issues of true federalism, how the state can take on some of these issues that need to be taken on in their own unit. But the question people are asking is whether or not this exercise will sail through, and it will not go the way the 7th and the 8th National Assembly exercises went. What are the assurances that we can get from this National Assembly? Can you give us any?
Thank you, Seun. But before I answer your question, let me quickly correct you. I represent Oyo Central, not Oyo South. So having said that, I think this National Assembly, under the leadership of Dr. Lawan, is very determined to make that difference. That I can guarantee you. We won't be, going through all this if we don't mean business. We really do mean business this time around. I can guarantee that.
Senator, apologies for your appellation, your title, but I covered effectively what happened in the 7th Assembly, and I did same in the 8th Assembly, and I'm doing now in the 9th Assembly. So when we make reference to some of these past and the history in this constitutional amendment process, some of us have experience of how some of these things has failed. So the question is that what lesson has this National Assembly learned from what has happened in the last 8 years?
I mean, obviously, you have to learn lessons. You learn lessons as you proceed. I do recall that in 2003, when we tried to amend the Constitution, we put all the bills under one single bill. And when the third term thing failed, the whole thing collapsed. And so what we intend to do now, and what I can assure you we will do, is that every item will be put in a single bill and looked at its own merit.
Okay,
so there's no question. The point I'm trying to make is there's no question of, yeah.
So I was going to ask.
Go on, I mean, issues you were, hang on.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Hang on. You know, think issues like, for instance, electoral reforms would be done. It would be standalone. It would be dealt with as such. So if it sails through, it sails through. If it fails, it fails. It wouldn't affect things like devolution of powers. Everything will be done standalone.
Oh, fantastic. That is good news. So that everything is not bunched together, and when they fall apart, everything falls apart. So it's good news that we understand that some of these bills will stand alone. But Senator Tinubu said that they've learned the lesson and they are bringing and importing some of what they've experienced in 7th and 8th Assembly into this process. Give us an understanding of how this will work. Is it going to be the cast of those framing of those bills that you'll just be bringing in, or you are adjusting it, or how will this work?
No. See, as far as we're concerned, we're starting afresh. We want to listen to Nigerians. The whole idea of a public hearing is it's a tool we use to gauge public opinion, to feel the pulse of the people. And when we finish that process, then we put it together and then have our own debates in the National Assembly, and then take it from there.
So another question that is bothering everybody is whether or not the National Assembly or the senators are listening to what some Nigerians are saying. Some Nigerians are saying, look, the process of amending the law or this constitution is a waste of time. According to them, that's their opinion, that is a waste of time. And their reasons, or their reason is this, that the military gave us this constitution and it does not represent the voices of the Nigerian people. So are you listening to that argument to say we need a brand new constitution, not fixing a vehicle that is faulty and flawed that they say might not take us, that will take us nowhere?
Yeah, see, my own view is this. To start with, we have to listen to people. That's why we're here. We're not going to sit here and then decide this is good for the nation. No, that's the whole essence of the public hearing. But then there are school of thoughts, like you rightly said, there's a school of thought that says, let's scrap this whole thing and then start from afresh, because it's, according to you, or what people say, it's a military constitution. And then there's the other school of thought that says, well, let's keep amending it. You see, my own view is that we won't have a perfect constitution. And as we grow as a nation, there will always be issues. And the whole idea of this sort of exercise is to address those issues. If you look at the issues we have now, they're quite different from the issues we had 4 years ago. So, if you're asking my own personal opinion, I think what we're doing is just about the right thing. But having said that, Nigerians would have their views. We will put it together in a single document, and then we'll have a robust debate about it. But that's my own personal view.
So before I go to Professor Suleiman, the question is, insecurity is perhaps Nigeria's major problem at the moment. How do you hope that this exercise will fix that problem? Senator, I don't know. I'm not sure you got what the question, but let me go again. Insecurity seems to be Nigeria's biggest problem.
I had the. Yeah, I had the question you asked Professor Slimon, but go on.
No, actually, it was you that I wanted to ask you that question, that how do you think that these exercises will fix our biggest problem in Nigeria today, which is insecurity?
Well, where people are coming with all sorts of ideas. We've received memoranda on this on the issue of insecurity. Now, if you're asking my own personal opinion, again, before I go into that, people have talked about a state police, and then you hear the other school of thought that says, "Oh, we're not right for that." So my own take is that after we restructure, things will get better. Again, my own view is that this one-size-fits-all policy that we appear to be using in this country is just not working. That's the truth of the matter. The reason why we have all these agitations is that people don't feel a sense of justice. And so, once we fix the issue of restructuring, where power is devolved, that's my own opinion, where power is devolved to the states. And then states will then have the responsibility of then tackling all these issues of, insecurity, as you say. The Nigerian police, as good as they are, clearly cannot meet the challenges of today. It's clear. Everyone can see that. And so we need to do better than this. So we need to give responsibilities to the state. That's my own opinion. Now, for instance, you have a police constable from Borno, and then you tell him to come and police in Ibadan, where I come from. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So these are the issues we need to look at.
Okay, Senator, stay with us. Let me go to our Abuja studio. Professor, you heard Dr. Buga just say, look, he doesn't think that the present political leadership in this country will assent to these all exercise at the end of the day. Do you have the same fear?
I think going forward in this country, we shouldn't be pessimistic about the process or about what our policy makers or political class are doing. Yeah, there were issues in the past. There was skepticism in the past. And as I keep on saying, you see, the kind of democracy we practice in this country, not only in this country anyway, is one democracy that tends to give power to the executive. Whether it's 9th Assembly, whether it's 8th Assembly, whether it's 7th Assembly, the executive is almost more vehement, more powerful when it comes to decision. The president controls the law enforcement agency. The government, the executive control, the power of court in terms of the appointments of the Accountant General of the Federation. The minister implement policy. So it's one, system that tends to give more power to the president and to the governors, regardless of the kind of legislature we have in the country. 9th Assembly, 8th Assembly, it's to be the same thing, because the parliament doesn't have the power over the law enforcement agency. They can do oversighting, they can make discourse, they can deliberate on issues, they can summon chief executive. When it comes to enforcement, when it comes to compliance, they don't have the wherewithal to ensure compliance. And that's a major problem. So the problem we had in the 7th Assembly, 8th Assembly is normal. It can still happen under 9th Assembly. But the good thing is that we have 9th Assembly, be it the PDP or the APC, to a large extent, we have been having this kind of harmony and determination and the willingness on the part of the leadership of both houses to say, we must get this done. Yeah, there were issues in the recent past. No doubt about that. And let us give it to them. The Parliament, the National Assembly, for instance, they have taken the front burner on so many fundamental issues. The issue that borders on COVID, for instance, the one that borders on security. As we are talking today, the House of Rep is meeting on security. People have been calling for security summit for the past 2 years. They are taking, the front line now. The senators have taken so many decisions, whether it's respected by the executive or not. So I think we should give the kudos to this, Parliament. There were issues. There were friction. There were so many appellations. There were so many stigmatization on the National Assembly. There's no doubt about that. But whether they have been doing what they should do, especially regarding to so many fundamental issues in the last 2 years, I think we have to give kudos to them. And I want to believe that Mr. President, as we have it now, is not going for third time. He's an elder statesman in this country. He has done it before. It's not perfect. There were issues, there were shortcomings, there were weaknesses. But when it comes to getting a new constitution amended, appending its signature or assent the bill on the new constitution, I don't want to be pessimistic about it. I want to believe that this time around we shall get it right. So, as Bogajerale pointed out, we need a political will. And I see that will on the side of the legislature. And I want to believe that with the kind of rapport, the kind of relationship, the kind of understanding between the two organs of government, I want to believe that this time around, this process of amending the Constitution, we set through, and in the next couple of months, hopefully, we shall have a new brand constitutions, depending on the readiness of Nigerian people to want to key into the exercise from different geopolitical zones. It's not much of the executive, not much of the legislature, but much of Nigerian followers and our different political class across the geopolitical zone. We must build national consensus to agree on so many issues. We must build consensus on how to fight insecurity. As we are talking today, the governors, they are not united. As we are talking today, the various political class along religious lines are not united. As we are talking today, the terrorists, they have some sympathizers among Nigeria that believe what we are doing is right. As long as we have this kind of, orientation, this attitude, this value orientation, this perception of what we call a national, fundamental issue, we cannot get it. It's not about the policymaker. As Senator Farani pointed out, there are so many issues when you talk of security. Amendment the Constitution can, roll out on issue of security. We talk of overlapping mandates of the security agency. It's part of the issue they need to look into. We talk about the state police. It's one of the fundamental issues we need to look into. We talk of some section of the country or some, sects being alienated from governance. So the issue of inclusivity, participation, the issue of economic well-being of Nigerian people, these are fundamental issues that tend to permeate into what we call a big threat to Nigerian security. And these are the gamut of issues that we must all have that hope. All right. We must lift our spirit up. Let's key into what they are doing. Let's make our feeling known through our federal memoranda, and let's get starting in the next couple of days.
All right. So, you use the word brand new. If it's a constitution that is repaired, it can never be brand new. It can only be a fixed constitution. A brand new constitution will mean that we have, from the scratch, we are having a new constitution. That's what I understand as a brand new, because that's the argument some people have.
Through amendment, you can overhaul. Through amendment, you can overhaul. We can decide to change the entire thing.
But Prof, this exercise is not doing that. This exercise is just fixing segments of the Constitution. So it's not giving us an overhaul. So this process will not give us a brand new.
Senator Farani just said one thing now. People are at liberty to come up and express their opinions on issues. If we believe, for instance, that what we need is not segment amendment, let it come out. We have seen geopolitical zone. The senators, they have all gone to the various constituency now. Nigeria should come out to express their opinions. If we agree that what we want is a serious overhaul of the entire system, they have no option but to key into that agenda.
Fantastic. So, before I go back to Senator Folarin, let's look at the list that China has put together on some of the issues we understand have been brought forward for the public hearing. Number 1 and point number 4 are very critical for me when we're talking about security. So, Prof, if you look at it, the fourth item, federal structure in governance and devolution of power, 1, and item number 4, establishment of state police. I understand and I think that this will address the issue of security. But in reality, some governors are even divided over how the state policing idea will go. Some are of the opinion that it will be misused if there is state policing. In your view, you are a researcher, you are an academic, you are a scholar. Because people have said, let us fashion a constitution based on what will suit our situation, our ethnic nationality, our taste, our culture. Will state policing work for Nigeria?
Seun, thank you very much. Our problem is not the policy, it's not the constitutions, it's our people. Before now, the center used to conduct elections for local governments. We clamored that local government elections should be conducted by state governments. When that policy or that law was being implemented, what have we seen in this country? We see a situation where governors abuse that privileges. No state governments, no state governors has ever allowed opposition in that states to have election, a smooth local government election. In the last couple of years, there's nothing wrong in having state police. But with the caliber, with the character, with the respect of governors we have in this country, are we sure that they will judiciously and they will not abuse that right of having control over the policing of the states? That's the big question. Are we sure? Governors that control in its entirety and influence what legislature at the state level does, governors that control the state independent electoral commissions, not allowing their opposition to have any say in governance, governors that abuse a lot of privileges given to them at the subnational level. To me, as good as that concept and that clamor for state police is, I don't think we are right for it now in this country. Not with the kind of governance or the kind of state government we have at the very subnational level. Good, beautiful in terms of understanding the terrain. Good, beautiful in terms of understanding the logistics. Beautiful in terms of, mastering, the various trainings of that state in policing and ensuring security. But the point is, while we are trying to solve one problem, I only want us to, get ourselves in a more fundamental and more morbid problem. And that is my fear about state policing. State policing, yes, is good, but now we are not right for it, and we must be very careful.
Let me go to Senator Folarin. Senator, one of the presentations made today in Lagos is one of your constituents, members, proposing an Ibadan state. The state creation is, interestingly, part of the items here. Give us an understanding why there should be an Ibadan state.
Well, I'm sure a lot of zones would. No, I didn't say that, Corey. But honestly, I mean, one of the things we say. No. I'll tell you. One of the things we say is this: that of all the old state capitals, it is only Ibadan that does not have a state, and it just doesn't make sense. If you look at the landmass and the population of your state, we honestly believe that Ibadan should have its own state, like Kaduna State, like Enugu State, But can I quickly make a point on this insecurity issue again, please, Sean, before you go? You see, what we must do is to look at means of creating wealth. That's the first thing we must do: create wealth.
if people are gainfully employed, have their businesses, then all this kidnapping, armed robbery, everything is going to reduce. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you must first of all create wealth. It's very important. And I think the organ or the level to create this wealth has to be the states, and which was the point I made about this, one size fits all. The federal government cannot do all these things. We need to empower the states to take up more responsibilities, to develop their own resources. And because at the end of the day, it's about, look, people don't have jobs. People are hungry. The poverty level, that's what it's all about. And that's what then leads to all this insecurity. And so, in talking about how to tackle insecurity, we must also think about creating wealth.
Thank you. Interesting. But before we go, I'd like you to, maybe as a final word, in 30 seconds each, but let me allow you to listen to this woman who made a presentation, and she said the language in the Constitution in some areas are very, very insensitive. Dr. Abiodun Afolabi, take a listen to her.
We have asked several questions about to what extent are gender issues considered in the constitutional and electoral process in Nigeria. How broadly are the system interpreted to accommodate particular needs of women and other vulnerable groups? How can the Constitution open up legitimate spaces to address these gaps? And also, how can we continue to allow 50% of the population to remain excluded, marginalized? So we demand for the following. There's a problem with the Constitution, the 1999 Constitution. And that's why we also align with people who are calling for a new constitution that is people-led, that speaks to the aspiration of the Nigerian people, particularly women and children. The first issue that we have is that the 1999 constitution language is not sensitive.
So let's close the show now, and we have 60 seconds to do that. I'll allow Senator Fulani to quickly react to this in 30 seconds. What's your reaction to what Dr. Akiode said there?
Well, I was there when she made that presentation, which I thought was a brilliant. For me, we need to have a constitution that would guarantee justice and fairness for everyone. There are women who would hold their own any day, anytime. I know women. I think what we need to do is to craft the constitution in a way that would give them the opportunity, or give them the platform to fulfill their potential.
All right, Professor Suleiman, your reaction to what Dr. Akiode Afolabi said in 30 seconds.
I think the woman is right. Everybody must be given the sense of belonging. There must be inclusion as against exclusion. There must be justice and fairness. Regardless of where we come from, whether we are Yoruba, we are Hausa, we are Muslim, we are Christian. Let us be fair. And when people tend to be fair with one another, just, and we're able to bring every shade of this country on board in governance, there'll be less restiveness, there'll be peace, and to a large extent, there'll be development. Anything short of that, there will continue to be anarchy and violence, which we don't pray for. We should give this next assembly that hope. We should support them, and we should have our spirit lift up, open that better things will come in no sooner a time. Thank you very much.
Professor Abubakar Sulaiman, a former Minister of National Planning and the current Director General of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, thank you for your time tonight. As well as Senator Teslim Folari, Senator representing Oyo Central in the National Assembly. Thank you. It's a pleasure seeing you again, Senator. And that's it for the show tonight. Don't